Welcome to my review of Demon's Souls Remake on PS5. I'm your host, Dr. Big Boy Cheese. Mr. The Cheese. The Cheese. Ryan. I'm Ryan. These days there's become a game, or a type of game that's become so popularized and discussed, it's become, in a sense, at least in my opinion, its own genre. The Souls-like game. Games that have you bring your character across rough battlefields to fight bosses. Your experience coming from enemies you fight. Die, lose it all. Unless you recover. If not, sorry. Shit. The Dark Souls franchise really brought these types of games into the mainstream. It's been over a decade, but finally we have been given the first and original challenge even before Dark Souls, rebuilt from the ground up, where it all began. Demon's Souls Remake. There have been a lot of remakes and remasters, and these days a lot of companies are pushing the boundaries of what we can expect from remakes and remasters. They're kind of ruining it for everyone else who just wants to repackage their games. Come on guys, knock it off. Demon's Souls Remake comes on the field, and I want to talk about it bit by bit, exactly what this game does wrong and does right, and perhaps why it doesn't feature more pig anuses. You see, in Bloodborne you could visceral attack these giant pigs, and you know what, never mind. Let's talk about the graphics. Please, stop me from talking about pig anus. I bet you didn't think you'd come to a video about Demon's Souls and I'd be talking about pig anus. Well, here we are. It's important to note that this is a very faithful, sometimes to a fault, remake of a classic. So there's definitely times where the game still shows its age, but only if you're really akin to this game's past, or have played other Souls games that have phased out some aspect of what we expect in Souls games, or what was in this game. I'm gonna try to stop saying Souls a lot, but I'm probably gonna say it a lot, so buckle up, kids. Demon's Souls features two visual modes, fidelity mode or performance mode. Either way you play, the game looks absolutely stunning. It's dark, brooding, and even disgusting. In a good way. Actually, I haven't decided yet if it's a good way, but it's kind of, some of the enemies are gross, let's just put it that way. Performance mode has the game at a smooth 60 FPS, and it managed to make Demon's Souls play better than it ever did on PS3. Demon's Souls uses the darkness to its advantage. There's a lot of areas where your only light is you, and you travel around ransacked, broken down prisons or a blighted swamp, anxious of what may lie around the next corner. But it's really the lack of light that really persists over time in a lot of the worlds. It begs you to investigate its crevices and corners, but also keeps you on your toes. It's more of a horror game than any horror game I've ever played. Animations are much more fluid and realistic. There's almost a synchronization of all the various animated bits coming together in a symphony of sorts to create this grand musical accompaniment. In soul form, or messages on the ground, the small little particles emanating off you are so satisfying to just stand and watch flicker and fluctuate off surfaces. Characters now move their mouths when speaking, which has never really been a consistent thing in Souls games. It seems like a little thing, and it is, but it's cool regardless, because it obviously, Souls games are not known for dramatic or gut-wrenching stories. If they can do anything to immerse you more in the universe, that's a small improvement that will do it.
I can sense it. You can hear the voice of God. And you're battling those terrible demons. Our merciful God has sent you here to protect us. I will share with you everything I have. May the heavens gaze.
Fidelity mode I have not experimented with too much, but it adds back in some visual detail, though it runs at a 30 FPS. From what I've seen, the game looks great no matter what, and it plays great no matter what. Bluepoint has taken the original Demon's Souls old flair and visual style that was impressive back in 2009 and modernized it and made it feel brand new without leaving anything that made the original shine behind, or lack of shine, because you know, the darkness. Now again, Souls games are not necessarily known for their powerfully moving scores or insane genre-defying musical arrangements. Instead, they opt for silence most of the time. It's just you, your weapon, and whatever lurks beyond. That's not to say that there's never music. There is, especially during boss battles, and it's awesome and epic and feels great, but it's frequently the silence that you remember the most. It punctuates the experience in a way that's just, it's hard to describe. The way Demon's Souls uses sound, or the lack of sound, to create its atmosphere works incredibly well in a way not many other games can pull off. Each swing of your sword is accentuated by nothing. You hear every clash, attack, cut, and scratch. It's something each successive Souls title has done since. Minimal sound. It's just you out there on your own. But even after 30 hours of gameplay, you still appreciate the crunch of a backstab or the breaking of boxes and barricades. The game does feature 3D audio if you have headphones, and it gives a game with a already great atmosphere and visual storytelling an extra little punch to it. I almost suggest playing it with headphones because the amount of times my ass was saved because I heard the small footsteps and movement and was able to defend or quickly go on the offensive really sold again how lonesome this game can feel. But again, in a good way. Small sounds of your sword swinging or you breaking boxes play through the DualSense controller, and while it's not the highest quality of audio on the planet, it's fine on its own, and it complements your TV's audio, and it gives just an extra oomph to the proceedings. Oomph, 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 oomph. I'm gonna stop doing that. I don't have footage of it, as I didn't have the slightest foresight that I would be doing this video back then, but I played the original Demon's Souls a few years ago on PS3 just to see how it held up and maybe give it another playthrough. And I will just say that it felt pretty rough. Not necessarily in its presentation or content, more just like I didn't expect it to have the same graphical fidelity of a 2020 game or 2021 game, but it felt slow and clunky to what I remember in its gameplay. Demon's Souls mostly refines the original gameplay, where it still is methodical and well-paced, and even slow at times, but it's much more fluid and smoother like recent Souls games, such as Dark Souls 3. This is probably where Demon's Souls shows itself as part remake, where it does feel rebuilt from the ground up, but mostly a remaster in this regard. It doesn't deviate too much from the original on how it plays, but more like it gives it some small quality of life changes that makes it better overall. Locking onto enemies, blocking their attacks, and timing your blows precisely is a must. Bloodborne and then Dark Souls 3 evolved the Souls formula with a faster paced style of gameplay. This is more prevalent in Bloodborne since it's not a true Souls title, but Dark Souls 3 definitely took its inspiration from that game, as we saw a little bit of a faster style of gameplay in Dark Souls 3. We see with Demon's Souls, Bluepoint stayed true to the original pacing while still making it feel new and fresh after all these years, though some of the newer developments of more recent titles are not in Demon's Souls, which for new fans means nothing, but for old fans who wanted them to stay true to the original, it again means expect a refinement of that original and less of a complete rework of the various systems or the game itself. For example, as an idea of an evolution of the gameplay I felt was a good addition, there are no Estus flasks to heal, it's moongrass. That's sick grass, bro. Just sick. Pass me some grass. Hell yeah. Yeah, you can buy it or pick it up. It adds a little tedium whether you either farm souls to buy more or run through an area you've been through 100 times just to get some more to prepare for the next fight with the next grueling boss. And it's not entirely fair to compare these games to previous Soul games, or this game to a previous Soul game, but it's a reminder in a lot of ways that some of the newer evolutions in the franchise were for the better, or made a little bit more sense. And look, there's no bonfires either. It makes traversing the world back and forth kind of tedious, since at times whether you want to visit a specific merchant or go to a specific character or enemy, you have to wade through difficulties of all the enemies between you and your goal. It feels good when you triumph, and not so good when you want to quickly run back to a merchant and lose your souls on the way back. And you will lose souls. Constantly. Frequently. It's more about traveling to distinct levels via the Nexus, your hub. There's no interconnected world here, just worlds to travel to, in whichever order you please. Then there's boss battles, which I feel I remember more fondly than they actually are. They're not bad. They range from "this is incredible" to "this is kinda lame." Some of them seem designed around a gimmick, which are easily exploitable, and some are just mechanically a little overkill with a splash of "fuck you" juice. They're more mechanically interesting than actually interesting, if that makes sense, or actually well-designed fights. That I think is the only thing that I think is a bit annoying to return to in this remake, is that not all of the bosses have aged well, and even some of them have these horrendous hitboxes, and it almost feels like they're just straight broken at times. Now, when I say that some of the bosses appear to be just broken, I don't say that because I'm butthurt that I had trouble defeating them. No. I mean that too, but that's not the only reason. For example, one of the bosses is just legit setting off 2 contraptions, stunning it, then getting up close and landing a few hits on it to kill it. It just seems like a cruel joke at first because the area of effect attacks they launch is beyond unreasonable and very annoying to dodge. Another one legit can just knock you off the bridge, which wouldn't bother me, but it flies too. And when I say this dude just straight walks in the air like laws of gravity and physics don't apply, apparently they don't in this instance. And look, I do get in a game filled with bosses there's going to be some duds, but this is probably where this game shows its age in a new coat of paint, so to speak, considering it feels like something that could have been updated or fixed, or I don't know, they could have modernized the boss fights to make them a little more interesting just mechanically. I don't know. Don't hit me. Like all Souls games after it, and now before it, at its heart, this game is a tried and true RPG. It doesn't have intense dialogue or story to challenge your character in their role, but in that, it creates this mystique about the world. You can kind of form your own story. There's plenty of weapons and spells and armor to really level up your character your own way. There's no wrong way to build your character. Managing inventory is god-awful though. I don't know what it is about RPGs, especially older ones, where it feels like they just phoned it in on developing an easily manageable inventory. You can't sell items, which would be fine, but you only have limited storage space, which is confusing and means you're constantly forced to discard items or just forget they existed. And to be honest, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that, but I want to store my grass, bro. I need to smoke that shit. Casting spells with heavy armor? Go for it. Want to be the fastest greatsword wielder out there? Do it. You pick a starting class, but it doesn't take long for you to start to deviate and forge your own class, so it's not too restrictive as far as what you can do or what you want to do. Don't believe me? Well, let me explain it to you in a kind of roundabout way. Multiplayer's return. Naturally to Demon's Souls, it's similar to the original and other Souls games. Summon a friend or a stranger in a human form or to help you fight a boss, or put down your summon sign in soul form and you help someone else. Now, I know some people out there think that summoning people is a little cheap, and it can be because sometimes you summon people and they absolutely rip apart the boss that you were fighting, essentially doing it for you, proving you can make a fuck-all build that ignores all difficulty at some point. Now, whether or not you do is of course up to you, but it's fun regardless. I summoned someone once to help me fight a boss once, and he killed it in 2 hits. It was insanity, but it was very awesome. And what ends up being such a solitary series, it's such a gratifying to wordlessly summon player. And what ends up being a very solitary series, it's kind of gratifying to wordlessly summon a player into your world, and you gesture towards each other, and then you go fight your enemy. It's solitary, but it brings in that community away, and I think few series are able to replicate. Also, I just want to throw out there, you can also engage in PvP or invade other worlds as a Black Phantom to also regain your human form. Final thing that I wanted to mention that stuck out to me is world tendency. World tendency is the game's worlds reacting to the actions of your character. Good deeds or benevolent actions make it white, and bad deeds will make it black. Easiest way to describe it is black makes the game harder and white tendency makes the game a little easier. Other things like pathways opening up or certain enemies and creatures being available happens too. It's not that simple, but either way, I wanted to mention that I am not entirely sold on the tendency stuff in Demon's Souls or even in the remake. The idea is there, but like many games before it, it's almost always easier to be the bad guy and get, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it or describing it, bad guy points than it is to get good guy points. So it feels just a tad imbalanced in a sense, because when you're in pure black, unless you didn't even proceed in a world, or it's just seemingly impossible unless you're a god. Maybe you are you? Tell me. It also seems to add an extra level of punishment into an already grueling experience that is pretty fair, but a tragic mistake can have you fall down to the darker tendencies. Now, there are options to recover that tendency. I'm not saying that there aren't, but it just seems like it's a lot easier to get it to dark or to black than it is to keep it white consistently. Demon's Souls, I think, benefits, like games after it and before it, from having a pretty convenient and easy New Game Plus system that while it does make the game more difficult, it also gives you a chance to tackle different areas differently or experiment with the different tendencies, or maybe having a world in pure black and another in pure white is beneficial to you, I don't know. Overall, Demon's Souls Remake is a great return to one of the RPGs that defined a generation in my opinion and spawned the creation of Dark Souls and established the Soulsborne Sekiro, I don't know what they call it, the Souls-like genre of games that we would see for a very long time. It's visually breathtaking and distinct, its sound is minimalist but effectively so, its gameplay is slow and methodical, all the while having the small improvements from more recent Souls entries. It doesn't always have the best bosses, and I wasn't crazy about the world tendency mechanic or the continued use of Moongrass, and some of its bosses fall flat, but overall Demon's Souls is a worthwhile, faithful recreation of a classic game that arguably defined a generation. Really quickly, I want to punctuate my statements here and make them a little bit clearer. I recorded this after I finished editing this all together because I felt my closing statement should be a bit clearer than it was. I'm not going to pretend I didn't like this remake. I did. I love the Souls games, so it was an easy purchase decision for me. But this game is not perfect and perhaps doesn't feature all the modern day quality of life changes you may want or have expected, as Bluepoint did their damnedest to stay faithful to the original. Diehards will like that, yes, but as a quote-unquote remake, it feels more like a hybrid of sorts, if such a thing should exist. A remakester? Should I coin that? If you love Souls games and have never played Demon's Souls, I do recommend this game without hesitation. I stand by everything I said here, but I put in the stipulation that it does not have the newest bells and whistles of the latest game from Software. It shows its age at times in that way, so know that going in. It does update a lot and does do a good job of modernizing the game and making it play better overall for modern audiences, but it's not necessarily out to change the industry, as it did in 2009. Thanks for watching, and if you like this content and want to see more of it, subscribe and follow the channel for more of it. Give the video a thumbs down if you hated it, or me, maybe both, and a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you next time, and I love you all. Maybe. Okay, fine, it's complicated.